the explicit instruction sequence. What I'm about to share with you, it will appear right here. What I'm about to share with you is going to be the sequence that we're going to use and talk about throughout the next few modules. This is our framework for thinking about how do we do explicit instruction that's highly effective for students who need intensive intervention. It all begins with modeling. What do I mean by modeling? It's really two things. First, it's about giving a clear explanation. Whatever you're teaching, you need to say it in a way that you can replicate, the students will understand. It's followed by examples. You're going to show the students how to do it by planning out very carefully examples and often doing them more than once. We're going to follow that with lots of practice. You won't be surprised to know that, as you probably do in a lot of cases, we first do guided practice with students, and then we do independent practice. And these are the features of a good instructional model. It fits into something you probably have heard of before, which is the I do, we do, and where's the last one? Where is it? My clicker won't work. All right, hang on. I got it. OK, you do. There it is. So I do, we do, you do. Sorry about the technical difficulties. This is what happens when you film things live. OK, so these are the aspects of the I do, we do, you do sequence. This way of teaching that's explicit, so it's students with intensive intervention needs are very responsive. All of this is supported by what we're going to call supporting practices. This involves these types of things: asking good questions, eliciting responses from students often, providing feedback that's immediate, specific, and positive or corrective, and maintaining a brisk pace. These are all things we're going to discuss in subsequent modules. Now that we have that framework, we have this very slick way of putting it all together. So when we think about how this is going to fit together, we're going to think about a couple different ways we could assemble a lesson using these pieces. So let's imagine two different examples. Here, we're going to talk about a new reading comprehension strategy. For any of you who've ever taught reading comprehension, it's a complex thing to do. And the first time you teach it, it's likely that you may need to model for most of a given lesson. And the amount of practice students do, either guided or independent, is actually relatively limited. But every time we use these supporting practice, so even when we're modeling, we're doing things like asking good questions and giving students feedback. Another kind of lesson, let's say, for example, a lesson where you teach students sound spellings. You teach them how to sound out words, do a phonics lesson. Well, in that case, it's usually pretty simple to explain the concept. And then most of the lesson is spent just practicing. And all of that, again, is supported by, guess what? Supporting practices. Let me give you another way to think about how this might occur in a lesson, whether it's reading comprehension or phonics. In any kind of lesson, we can operate this in two different ways. Thinking about a block of instruction, let's imagine this is one class period. It could be 90 minutes in a first grade class. It could be one period in a middle school class. We can think about that block being broken up differently in terms of the modeling and practice. So one way we could do it is we could break up the lesson into multiple opportunities to do modeling and practice. In other words, you can see here, we do modeling in one part of the lesson in practice. Then we teach something that's a slight advance on that. And then we teach something that's even more in advance on that. And all of that together comprises one period of time. And all of that is, of course, supported by supporting practices. Some lessons, though, might take modeling and practice across the entire thing. You do one thing for the entire lesson. And again, guess what? Supported by supporting practices, as we've already discussed. So that's the framework for thinking about explicit instruction. We're going to come back to again and again: modeling, practices, and supporting practices. And this is what we're going to talk about